is the path on which I walk, and you know me better than I know myself, and you've known me longer than anyone else. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, and I can't even understand it. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me, and I can't even comprehend it. But I know you see. Oh, this I know you see. Oh, I could walk where men may never tread, or plunge the depths where I could make my bed. But I never went hide and seek. You're so good at finding me, only lost in the mystery of the depth of your love for me. Just as knowledge is too wonderful for me, and I can't even understand it. Such knowledge is too wonderful for me. Oh, and I can't even comprehend it. But I know you see. Oh, this I know you see. And even where my world is shaking, your hand will hold me still. Even where my world is shaking, your hand will hold me still. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made.
What up? What's going on, everybody? It's just afternoon. I'm Temkin. It's showtime right here on Phantom Facebook Sports Network, broadcasting live on Phantom on Facebook, also on YouTube and on Twitch. So go find Phantom on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook. Like us there and subscribe and find all of our great programming that we have as part of the New World Order of Sports Media. Be part of the takeover. Make sure to post your comments, hit the share button. Don't be shy. Hit the share button as many times as you want. and invite people. Tag someone in this that you think would enjoy the show. And that way we can help grow the audience and get more people to the party and more conversation, because that's what this is all about. This is not a one-way chat. This is a two-way direct line of communication where we're talking sports. I am Ari Temkin. I am your humble host today. It is showtime right here on Phantom, Facebook's sports network. If you have not already, go ahead and hit the share button. Chris Bennett says that Durant guy is pretty good. I'd say so. Anybody else have any thoughts on, tag BK, good call. Anybody else have any thoughts on the bludgeoning that the Warriors gave to the Cavs last night? It wasn't a bludgeoning, 110-102, but I think it was a bludgeoning from a standpoint of, a lot of people circled that game as like, well, this is the game, the Cavs will win. I picked this as a sweep. I didn't even think there would be close games in this series. I thought Golden State was that good. But I think most people figured that LeBron would be good enough to win one of the games in this series, and I think last night would have been that game, and he wasn't, plainly put. But he was still good, not as good as Durant though, and they obviously needed LeBron, the Cavs did, to be as good, if not better, than Durant, and he was not. My wife says, I love this face. Thank you for saying that. What else is going on? Zach Rosenberg, can LeBron win the MVP on a losing team? Should he? No. Steph Curry's the MVP of this series so far. Durant was the MVP of the game last night, but Steph Curry's the MVP of this series. All right, let's talk about this series as we start off here on Showtime. Again, I'm Ari Temkin. Hit the share button. Post your comments. Thank you for joining us right here on Phantom, as I am every day at noon right here on Facebook.com/Watch Phantom. Also, make sure to check us out on YouTube, to Watch Phantom, or on Twitch. No matter where you're watching from, thank you for watching, and make sure to post your comments, and I will find your comments and mention your comments. Also, I'm apparently being hosted by multiple people on the Twitch channel, so thank you for doing that. I don't know what that means, but I think it sounds good. And if you're watching on YouTube, awesome, thank you. And if not, then go check us out on YouTube as well. All right, let's get started. Jonathan Sanford says, finals are over. It's going to be a sweep, the most anticlimactic finals that I can remember in my lifetime. Well, here's the thing. I picked this series as a sweep from the outset, and I didn't even think the games would be as close as they've been. I mean, we saw a close game that was fun to watch in Game 1. We now saw another close game in Game 3. I mean, at least we're getting close games. I just never thought it was going to be a close series. Like, here, I just don't... Like, Golden State is dominant. They're dominant. Like, that's how good they are. So, I guess I don't know what people were expecting going into this series by... Like, this was a 70-win team that added Kevin Durant and is now about to win its second consecutive NBA championship. So, yeah, maybe they looked a little bit mortal in the series against Houston. Maybe that's where it kind of came from. But, like, Houston's considerably better than Cleveland. We always knew Houston was going to give Golden State the best shot of anybody to beat them. My dad's watching. Dad, how are you? Darius English is watching. Game 4 will determine who's MVP of the series between Steph and KD. Yeah, good point. I think the first two games of this series, Steph was the MVP. Game 3, KD was the MVP. So you're right, Darius. If KD plays like he did last night, then he's going to be the MVP of the deciding Game 4. It'll be kind of fun. Now, look, I'm not a Warriors fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I'm just not a big LeBron fan, or I'm not a LeBron fan at all. In fact, I root against him actively. So I am going to enjoy, and I'll say this. I hate Dan Gilbert more than I hate LeBron. So the prospect of the Cavs losing, getting swept in Dan Gilbert's building, which will ensure that LeBron leaves and Dan Gilbert's team will toil in obscurity again, I'm really excited by that. And I'm sorry for Cavs fans. I like a lot of people from Cleveland. I have a lot of friends from Cleveland, and I'm sorry. I'm sorry. But all of my vitriol towards your team is really just centered and focused specifically on Dan Gilbert, who is as bad of an owner as he seems to be a human being. Is that fair? Probably. Millie Lab says hello. Hi. The big story, which I don't think it's changed, is where's LeBron going? Because I, again, never thought this was going to be much of a series anyways. So, although we could spend some time talking about just how brilliant Kevin Durant was last night, by the way. Here are the statistics. Let me just get it focused in there. As you can see, I've done very minimal actual prep on what needs to be done. There we go. Hey, I'm back. All right, let's I'm just now sort of understanding the aesthetics of what need to go into this broadcast, so I'm just kind of do this on the fly. But I mean, these numbers were ridiculous for Kevin Durant last night. 6 of 9 from 3. So his teammate set the NBA record for three-pointers made in a finals game by 9. Kevin Durant then goes out the following game and let's see, what did he have overall? He had sorry about this, folks. I can just minimize myself, right? I mean, like, I think for the most part, Kevin Durant has not had a good playoffs. Like, part of the reason I think the Rockets series was so... I'm going to minimize myself a little bit. All right, there we go. I'm making myself smaller. All right, now we can see it all. Part of the reason I think that the Rockets stuck around with Golden State so much despite Golden State's dominance because of Durant. But look at this. 43 points, 13 rebounds, 7 assists, had a steal. But, I mean, 43 points on 6 of 9 from 3 and 15 of 23 overall. What an economical 43 points. 43 points and 23 shots, 9 from 3. Ridiculous, ridiculous number. Big game. James, what up, buddy? How are you? And you're not a Cavs fan, right? Big game. You're I know you're not. I know you're from the Ohio area, but you're not a Cavs fan, right? You're not a LeBron fan, which is good. My dad says LeBron to the Bulls. Gonzalez Selma, my neighbor, says hello. How are you, sir? You might actually be able to see me broadcasting. I can look at your house right now with the window open. How are you? Gonzalez says, can't stand LeBron. Don't want him anywhere near our Spurs. Seriously? I can't stand LeBron either, but you also should know that if you're a fan of a team, you should want LeBron in your team. He's the best player in the NBA, and it's not even close. And I'm saying that despite the fact that Kevin Durant scored 43 points last night on 6 of 9 shooting from 3. I mean, the NBA has great players in Durant and Curry, and LeBron's the best by far, and it's not close, and I hate LeBron. But, I mean, you have to acknowledge that. You're a Mavs... So you are a true Dallas sports fan, Big Game James. You're a Mavs fan? Man, that's a tough life. I'm sorry to hear that. Chris Layhouse says better late than never. That's right. Make sure to share this post, by the way. Hit the share button if you wouldn't mind. And post your comments. Join the conversation, because I don't want to just sit here and talk to myself the entire time. That's boring, and I'll talk really fast, and I'll talk in circles, and it's not as good as if I engage with everybody else. So, you do love LeBron. Sorry. LeBron needs to retire. Does he really? LeBron is... Here's the thing about LeBron. Like, I don't like him. I'm not a LeBron fan, but I'm also willing to accept how good he is. Like that, you know what I mean? Like I can separate my dislike or hatred of LeBron and put the context of how good he is. I mean, LeBron James scored more points this season, had a higher points per game average and a higher assists per game average than any point in his entire career. So what's amazing is you could argue he's at the height of his power. Now, granted, look at these numbers. 33 last night, but was 1 of 6 from 3. And really disappeared for much of the end of the game when they needed him most. I mean, he kind of bowed out towards the end of the game. So, David Alejandre, what up, buddy? You're from Fort Worth, but you live in... Okay, I got it. So okay, that makes sense. That's why I would say if you're from Ohio, you should be like Cavs, because there are a lot of Cowboys fans everywhere. That's why it's hard to know. Like, a lot of Cowboys fans are Red Sox fans or are... Cavs fans or LeBron fans or Laker fans, whatever it is. So, Mavs will rise again. Maybe not. I'm not a big Mark Cuban fan. I don't, but Donnie Nelson's fantastic. Chris Bennett says, I like LeBron. He's just not the GOAT. That's Jordan. Daryl, my dad says not as good as Jordan. Here's the thing about LeBron. LeBron, if you want to argue LeBron is the greatest of all time, that's fine. I think that's a viable argument, and I'm willing to buy that argument, and quite frankly, I'm not going to argue with you. I think your own personal fandom, your own personal, like my love of Michael growing up in Chicago under the shadow of Michael Jordan, like, that's why I'm never going to say that LeBron's the greatest of all time. It's just my own personal beliefs, and I think, there's that emotional, nostalgic connection to it. And I think there are a lot of people that feel the same way about LeBron, that they grew up with LeBron and his greatness, and so so there's that same sort of nostalgia. So, like, I'm willing to accept arguments that people believe LeBron is the greatest of all time. I think Michael is. I think going 6 for 6 in finals is really, really good and really hard to do, as evidenced by the fact that LeBron is not going to do that. I think the argument that LeBron is playing in a better league than Jordan was is not a good argument, because it's just you can't compare the leagues, and part of it is like evolution. The evolution of human beings does happen. So like, yeah, you could argue the league is better, but that's only because we've gotten, like, players have evolved. So you can't hold that against Jordan, because the league has evolved with players that are more evolved. The reality is LeBron is a better, more evolved version of Michael Jordan. Bigger body, bigger stature, broader shoulders, has more of the evolved skill set. Like, that's just the reality of it. But again, my nostalgia, I'm basically making the argument LeBron's better, but I'm just falling back on my nostalgia and love for Jordan as it is. Too many great players. Russell had 11. True. And nobody really does. I mean, it's basically an argument now down to LeBron and Jordan. And when that happens, when you're on his block, to steal the comments from Mercury Morris, I mean, then there's an argument to be made. But yeah, and I by the way, Big Game James, I completely agree with you. There is no greatest of all time, but that's what we do when it comes to sports talk. We want to make those broad generalizations and statements. But I think the evolution of the game, and like, you needed Russell, you needed Magic and Larry, you needed all these greats that sort of created the league and gave it, and handed the baton to the next. And in many ways, even if you want to simplify it and say you needed Jordan, who created the modern athlete, something that I've argued a lot. It's not really even an argument. Jordan created the modern athlete. But because of that, then LeBron was able to do this upward mobility, give the players the power, which they now have. The players now have the power beyond general managers to decide where they want to go. LeBron did that. Obviously, the big three did that before him in Boston, but then LeBron did that with Miami. So did Chris Paul with Houston, Kevin Durant with Golden State. Now, but LeBron going to get to Miami sort of gave the power to the players, which again can't happen unless Jordan creates the modern athlete, the modern brand. So again, you kind of need one to get to the other. Jonathan Sanford says, Ari, show me a team that Jordan had to face that was stacked like Golden State. 4 All-Stars on one team. I can't remember one. Yeah, but what doesn't the argument about how bad the East has been sort of negate that in a sense? Like, maybe Jordan hasn't played that good of team head-to-head, but, well, first and foremost, he's been to 8 consecutive finals, and he's only played them the last 4. So what about the previous 4? And he won, I guess he won 3 of those 4? No, he won 2 of those 4. So, yeah, I mean, maybe Jordan never played a team as good and stacked as Golden State. You're absolutely right. Well, what about Utah? Karl Malone and John Stockton. Karl Malone is, what is he, 2nd or 3rd on the all-time scoring list? John Stockton's considered, I mean, at the time, Karl Malone and John Stockton were 2 of the 5 best players in the league at that time, much in the same way that Durant and Curry are. Now, you could argue, well, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. I mean, I think people underestimate how good those Utah teams were that Jordan beat twice in a row. Karl Malone's one of the greatest scorers in the history of the game. He's 3rd or 4th on the all-time scoring list, isn't he? I mean, it's Kareem, Jordan, and I think it's Kareem, Jordan, and Malone, right? And Stockton's widely considered one of the greatest point guards of all time. And certainly while they were playing, you're talking about 2 of the 5 greatest players. Yeah, thank you, AD. I didn't even have to see AD Sink's comment and the Jazz came to mind. Thank you, the Jazz. Boom. Oh, and by the way, LeBron played 4 finals prior to playing this stacked Golden State team. Why is this happening? Why do we have to do this, guys? We don't have to do this. We don't have to do this. We can just simply say what we grew up with or what we have the nostalgia for, what we love. Like, that's how we're going to put the argument on it. Utah was the greatest challenge to Jordan. Big game. Utah did not suck. Karl Malone and John Stockton are historically great players and were, at the time, 2 of the 5 greatest players in the league at that time. If they weren't 5, they were 10. 2 of 10. But I think they were 2 of 5. The East is weak. Agreed with that. John Dyer says Jordan just lucked out. He didn't have to play against Duncan Spurs. I'm just going to omit that comment from the record book. Jordan had to play against the bad boy Pistons who wanted to rip his head off. Darius English says the biggest difference with LeBron versus Jordan is that Jordan never had the pressure of living up to another player's shadow like LeBron has with Jordan. When Jordan came to the league, he was the undisputed GOAT. See, that's not true either, because Jordan was constantly... Now, maybe he wasn't compared to the greats as much... There wasn't an obviously Jordan sort of one player to compare him to. I think people saw a little bit of magic... I don't want to say magic... people criticize Jordan for, remember when he didn't make it as far in the playoffs, it was like you can't win with a guy like Jordan. I mean, he was criticized, but it's a different type of criticism. And maybe Darius, you're right in that regard. Like, he wasn't criticized and didn't come out, wasn't at the backdrop of the shadow of one singular player as much as LeBron has been. I think when Jordan came in, it was like he was certainly compared to some of the greats of all time, but it was not one singular greatest of all time. I mean, when Jordan finished his career, he was almost arguably the greatest player in the history of the game. And whereas when Jordan was playing, there wasn't that sort of singularity when it came to, to it. And Jonathan Sanford says it as best as you could put it. Like, you appreciate both players. My dislike of LeBron comes from, one, my love of Jordan, but two, I don't know. I just think he's so inauthentic. He's so, he's just so, like, synthetic and not real, and he comes off that way. And I think he's very passive-aggressive. He's very much like what people say is negative about millennials. Now, he's one of the greatest players in the history of the game. He threw it off the backboard and dunked. Like, it's funny because, and I'm willing to admit this, like, the other day was the anniversary of Jordan switching hands midair. And, and I mean, you look back and it's like, was that good? I hate to say that, but, like, I love Jordan and the switching hands midair. Like, people do that all the time now. And you compare that with LeBron in a finals game, much like Jordan did in the finals game too against the Lakers, threw it off the backboard to himself and dunked it. Yeah, and Big Game says he's not the scorer that he was. I just proved your point and made your case, Darius. I did? It's Kareem, Malone, then Kobe. Jordan's not second on the all-time scoring list? Is Malone... Jordan's ahead of Kobe, isn't he, on the all-time scoring list? Man, you got me all discombobulated now. What was the point you made that I was making for you, Darius? Yeah, but I think what that says is he didn't have pressure, and I disagree with that point. But certainly, yes, I made your point for you insofar as, LeBron had that one player to live up to stand up with. But that's the thing is, too, it's like he's chasing... Like, there are some people, probably myself, that there was nothing LeBron could have done to exceed Jordan. Now, Grant wins 7 championships, and there's basically no argument. Though I hate the rings thing being the only argument. Bron is passive-aggressive. He's totally passive-aggressive. And the worst thing about it is he doesn't admit... Like, my best example of this is he calls out teammates on Instagram, like, subtweets them on Instagram... But then, in, like, an interview that he did last year, is like, if I've got a problem with somebody, I'll tell them to their face. No, you don't. You don't. You go on Instagram and subtweet about them. I hate that about him. Anyways, what I really wanted to get into is what LeBron said yesterday at the podium, looking like he was in a Nike commercial.
The core of this Cavs team has remained consistent the last few years, but you've got a lot of new teammates on this team from a few months ago. Are you confident that your teammates can mentally reset after this tough loss and be where they need to be for Game 4?
I mean, it's definitely a tough loss, and we had our chances, but we have another opportunity on Friday, to win on our home floor. Well, we've been, pretty good, throughout the postseason, so that's a good thing for us that we have an opportunity to, extend the series, but we got to come out and we got to put 48 minutes. We know this team that we're going against are, the best third quarter team in the NBA. And once again, they showed that tonight by outscoring us by 8 after we had a lead at halftime. So we have to be dialed in and play like we did the first half and in the fourth quarter tonight.
Robert in the middle.
Robert Littal, BSO. You twisted your ankle pretty badly there in the first half. How is that feeling? And
I'm sure, sorry about that Spurs fans will be reasonable when they hear LeBron talking after Game 3 about how great the Spurs are and that basically the only opponent that he's had that he can remember, and he can remember basically everything, that made him work as hard and got into his head as much as the Golden State Warriors have is the San Antonio Spurs. Jonathan Sanford. The shortest answer to that question should have been LeBron saying no. But instead, he went out of his way to talk about how great the Spurs are. Which... So yesterday, I mean, this can basically be 2 straight shows where I'm talking about if LeBron is going to come to the Spurs. Anyways, hit the... Gonzalez says no. Gonzalez, you're crazy. Seriously, you want LeBron. How could you not want LeBron? Give me one good reason why you don't like LeBron other than the fact that you don't like him. But, like, I don't like him, and I think you're crazy for thinking you wouldn't want him on your team. He's a great teammate as far as on the floor goes. I don't know, I'm in the locker room. I'm assuming he's a great teammate. He is, I mean, he'd be perfect for the Spurs. He'd be literally perfect for 30 teams. There's no team where he wouldn't be perfect for. Now, look, I think there's been a lot of momentum for LeBron to LA for the Lakers, and I thought, like, when the season started, and when the season started, I was like, there is 0% chance LeBron's going back to Cleveland. 0%. And my initial, the initial spot that I thought he would end up at was the Lakers, for multiple reasons. One being, that he could basically bring one of the most iconic franchises in pro sports. It's, in my opinion, the Dallas Cowboys are 1, and the Los Angeles Lakers are 2, and the New York Yankees are 3. And maybe it's the Dallas Cowboys are 1, and the Yankees are 2, and the Lakers are 3. But those are the 3 most iconic franchises in sports. Lakers, Cowboys, Yankees. And you're not going to talk me off the Cowboys being number 1. It's not even close. So the prospect of going to LA and lifting up the most high-profile franchise in pro sports, plus the prospect of would Paul George end up there? Could they potentially coax another star to go there as well? So I initially started the season. I thought, well, he's going to go to the Lakers. It just makes the most sense. Then the season started, and rumors started to swirl about him being interested in San Antonio. And it's like, well, the Spurs make so much sense. He's always voiced his love for the Spurs. He's talked ad nauseum about how much he loves Pop, and yeah, I mean, Jonathan, every team would want LeBron. I mean, of course, he's unbelievable. He's unbelievable. He's a 33-point game, and people were like, how bad was LeBron last night? He's unbelievable. So, when the season started going and there were rumors about, well, maybe he's interested in San Antonio, which, by the way, I think he's leaking those rumors. So you can kind of know the teams that he was potentially interested in by where the rumors were going. And so there's the prospect of, well, you bring him in here with Kawhi and then LaMarcus. I mean, that's, with Pop as the head coach, that's a team that could beat Golden State, obviously. That's a team that could beat Houston. That is easily one of the best teams in the NBA, if not the best team in the NBA. And it's not just the fact that it's LeBron, LaMarcus, and Kawhi, but it's the genius of Pop. And I thought the thing that was and those are all surface level things. Like, we all know those things. But, like, something that I thought was important to LeBron and would be important to LeBron is, he doesn't want the wear and tear of playing 82 games. Now that he's, 33, going to be 34 next year. And he played in 82 games this year because the Cavs needed him. I mean, think about this. He played in 82 and the Cavs were the 4 seed. LeBron James played in all 82 games this year and the Cavs were the 4 seed. That's how bad the Cavs were, even with him playing. So he had to play in 82 games for them to maximize their seeding. Otherwise, they might have been the 5th or the 6th seed if he missed a handful of games. So he can come to San Antonio, and the Spurs and Pop have proven over time that their players can rest and they are still viable to win games. So LeBron understands that. So he can come to San Antonio, play in 65 games, not have to play, have his minutes restricted. So LeBron would be making a longevity play. You go to the Spurs, you're going to a team you can win a championship with Kawhi and LaMarcus. Plus you've got the genius of Pop. So you're going to maximize, your coaching, how good your coach is to put you in a position to be successful. Oh, and by the way, Pop has a proven track record of winning games despite being able to minimize the amount of minutes a guy plays on a night-by-night basis and not have to play in 82 games and still play on a team that's going to be the 1st or the 2nd seed, even with you playing missing a handful of games. And the icing on the cake would be there is no coach LeBron could play with or play for that's equal to him. That's historically great. Pop is historically great. And there's no coach that he would respect to that degree that is also as historically great as LeBron is. So, And Frank Ramirez says he wants to play for Pop. Yeah, that might be one of the most, one of the most important reasons here. John Dyer says I trade my own kid for LeBron of the Spurs. Definitely the comment of the day. I think there are a lot of people that would trade their kids for LeBron to come to the Spurs, which I also think the Celtics should be in play. They're an iconic franchise. They have the pieces to win. Brad Stevens is, he's up there on Pop's level. He's not as much, obviously, because Pop's won 5 championships and Brad Stevens has 0. But, now Pop's won 5 and been to 6. Brad Stevens has yet to be to an NBA Finals. But, I think Brad Stevens is on track for being Pop, and he's on track for being Pop from a standpoint of he's got a lot of the things that Pop has. I don't know how many of the leadership things, and again, Pop's won 5 championships, so Millie, you wouldn't be happy either if LeBron James came to the Spurs? Why? Don't you want to win championships? Why would you not want LeBron to come to the Spurs? We can rename King William District to King James. They already renamed King William District to Southtown, and I thought that was a bad idea too. Jonathan Sanford says the other thing LeBron desires more than anything is to play under a coach he believes gives the team the greatest opportunity for success. There are only 3 coaches in the league right now that fit that criteria. Pop, Brad Stevens, and who's the third? Stumped me. Who's the third? I had a bunch of other things to talk about too, guys. Do we want to just stay on LeBron and the Spurs all day? Should we go back to
the core of this Cavs team has remained consistent the last few years, but you've got a lot of new teammates on this team from a few months ago. Are you confident that your teammates can mentally reset after this tough loss and be where they need to be for Game 4?
It's definitely a tough loss, and we had our chances, but we have another opportunity on Friday. To win on our home floor. Well, we've been, pretty good, throughout the postseason, so that's a good thing for us that we have an opportunity to, extend the series, but we got to come out and we got to put 48 minutes. We know this team that we're going against are, the best third quarter team in the NBA, and once again they showed that tonight by outscoring us by 8 after we had a lead at halftime. So we have to be dialed in and play like we did the first half and in the fourth quarter tonight.
Robert in the middle.
Robert Littell, BSO. You twisted.
Yeah, so you go on LeBron. By the way, was that the right comment? I can't hear the audio from that. Was that the right comment where he brought up the Spurs as being the only other team to test him, or was that another question? Because I might have completely messed that up. But why was LeBron dressed like a Winter Olympian? He looked like he was dressed like he was repping Nike in the 90s. That's how he looked like. He looked like he was about to be with Spike Lee in a commercial. By the way, post if that was the right comments where he talked about how great the Spurs were. It was not the right comments. Thank you, Jonathan. I apologize for that. I tried to grab that clip, but I guess I didn't. We could just sit through the entire press conference and I can find it, or we could just acknowledge that LeBron talked glowingly about the Spurs organization. Basically was asked if there's been any franchise, I don't even know if he's ever, I'm trying to think of how the comment was, how it was phrased. By the way, Gonzo says, Mike, his son, would agree with you on LeBron. I personally don't like his attitude. He cries a lot. He thinks he deserves every call. He doesn't act like a team player to me. I sound like a mom. Maybe Pop would be good for him. He could be different here. Maybe one day he'll prove me wrong. And no, King James already know. I agree with some of that. He does cry a lot, but all NBA players, complain about every call. that's a common thread among NBA players. His attitude that I don't like is the passive aggressive nature of and he just seems so inauthentic. I hate the inauthenticity of him. Like that, he's designed himself as an individual brand, which I don't think it comes off right. Gervin Williams says Spoelstra. I disagree with that. I don't know. I downplay Kerr, and I think maybe I shouldn't, just because of how good the team is. Let's see. Winter Olympian. I'm calling ice on anyone against having LeBron in San Antonio. That was the wrong clip. I know. My bad, guys. Those were Spurs Fiesta colors. Good. Maybe that's what he was doing. Everything he does, 80 Sings got it. He was wearing Spurs Fiesta colors and talking about how much he loved the Spurs and how much he respects Pop, and he wore Spurs Fiesta colors. Boom. 80's right. He's coming to San Antonio. Book it. I can't believe I found the wrong clip. Should we just play the whole thing?
The core of this Cavs team
and somebody tell me when we're there?
Consistent
this
the
sucks.
Last
This is
few
the
years,
entire. Did I pull the entire press conference?
From a few months ago. Are you
and I can't fast forward here. This is how bad I am at this. I'm sorry,
mentally...
people. I'm just gonna. Here's what I'll do. I'm just gonna put. I'll be honest, AD. He's actually in Charlotte Hornets colors. Is he throwing shade at Michael? Is LeBron throwing shade at Michael right now by wearing his team's colors? He's wearing Charlotte Hornets colors. What does his hat say, by the way? Let me kind of lean in. Okay, can I read his hat? Does anybody know what his hat says? Likala. Be like Mike, even his 80s dressed post-game apparel. I do need pledge. I need somebody to produce this show for me. Here's the thing. I closed on my house today, meaning I sold my house, which is such a bittersweet thing to do. So I just didn't have enough time to put together an actual show today. So I thought maybe I can pull this. I really wanted this clip. Literally the only thing I wanted to pull was this clip, and I searched YouTube for it, and I thought I found the clip, but I didn't. I guess I found his entire post-game press conference. So what we're going to do is we're just going to sit here and watch LeBron in his Charlotte Hornets-like getup. Maybe he's going to Charlotte next year. I guess that makes the most sense. I mean, Charlotte's obviously the best team. His head says Taco Cabana. I need to find this clip. It was awesome. If you're a Spurs fan, I'm not even a Spurs fan, and I listened to the clip and I was like, God, that's awesome. I'm not a Spurs fan, but I love Timmy and I love Pop. And he basically was like, the question was something to the effect of, what does it do to your psyche when you're going up against a team like Golden State? I understood what he was trying to ask. There were a lot of words to what he was saying, and he said talk about, which I think always deducts points from the question. It's just Wing It with your host, Ari Temkin, sponsored by a wing place. Oh, that's a good question. I could just fake interview LeBron. But I don't want to play his audio because I don't know what he's saying. So I could be like, LeBron, where are you going to end up next year? I know that he asked the reporter to ask the question a second time. So maybe if I see that, I'll know to go to it. But I mean, it was just such a... No, it's not this one. I know he was like, can you repeat the question? But he's basically asked about what it's like psychologically to go up against this team, that he knows he has to be perfect against. And he basically responded by saying, well, it was similar to when he played the Spurs. And he brought up and he was like, that they're not going to beat themselves. That Pop and Timmy and Manu and Tony, that they're not going to beat themselves. They're going to be on their P's and their Q's all the time. But then what happens is, then Gary Neal beats you like he did in 2013 in that ridiculous game where Gary Neal went off. Or then Danny Green beats you where he set the finals record before a few years later Steph Curry broke it. It was just such a, LeBron... That wasn't it. LeBron always goes out of his way to talk about how great the Spurs are. So, LeBron to San Antonio, those talks have sort of heated up a little bit lately. And then LeBron, after Game 3, goes to the podium and talks about how great Pop is and the Spurs are, and every Spurs fan is like, it's happening! Now, he's not really wearing Fiesta colors. He's kind of wearing Charlotte Hornets colors. So I think he's throwing shade at Michael. But Gary Neal, Towson, that's right. Gary Neal, the real deal. Where's Gary Neal playing now? Thank you, Gonzo. I'm sorry to be moving away from this neighborhood, but no, you should know, buddy, that when you sell your house, you should do pretty well because this house sold in 24 hours. So you might even want to think about moving. I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that because you might be able to cash. I mean, it's a great neighborhood. I love this neighborhood. But anyways, did well. But I don't have a job, so I kind of needed to sell this house for more than I bought it. But anyways, you're my neighbor, and I'm looking at your house right now, and if you want, you could sell your house and probably do considerably better than I did because you bought your house earlier than I did. Anyways, nobody else that's watching this cares about that, but I just thought it's important to note. AD, is Gary really overseas now? Have I missed it? I hope I haven't missed it. I really want to get this LeBron quote. Maybe I can just pull up the audio here, and then I can really mess with everybody. Let's see here. Now it's just playing the old.
Tonight was about 4 or 5 feet behind the one he made last year. Last year, we're up 2, and he pulled up pretty much right at the 3-point line. I got a great contest, but he made it. Tonight,
we'll just have to check in every
3.
time. Should we? Sorry, guys. I'll miss you too, Gonzo. Absolutely. I'll miss this neighborhood. I love this neighborhood, honestly. I'm mad we didn't move here earlier. All right. David Andre, Ari Temkin, realtor. Everybody's like, we heard it, we know. I don't know why I'm just obsessed with it, but I just really want to play the clip, and I'm not playing it. And is this it?
Defensively, what can you do to stop enough of them to a degree that you can have more points than they at the end of the game?
No,
and
he's
also
agreeing because he kind of was confused by it. All right. Should we talk about T.O.? Do you guys want me to continue to talk about this LeBron thing, or should we get to T.O.? Anyways, I guess if you're asking for my opinion on whether or not LeBron comes to the Spurs, I still think it's unlikely because, again, I go back to Kawhi, and I don't necessarily think Kawhi's staying here. But if Kawhi stays here, then they have as good a shot as the Lakers or Rockets. But maybe I'm overplaying the Rockets. I just think, based on how everybody's currently constituted, the Rockets give him the best chance to win now. That's without Kawhi in San Antonio. If Kawhi stays in San Antonio with the Spurs, then he's got as good of a shot to win a championship with the Spurs than the Rockets. Because, I would just rather have Pop as the coach with no T.O. I'm tired of T.O. No, we don't want to talk about T.O. skipping on the Hall of Fame. That's 2 votes for no T.O., but I kind of want to go to T.O., and I don't want to stay on LeBron James this whole time. This is your show. What else should we talk about then? Should we continue to talk about LeBron to the Spurs? Is that what we want to talk about? There were reports out yesterday, I guess 4 independent entertainment sources were saying that LeBron's already decided he's coming to L.A. Does that mean Paul George is going? Who else is going? Is it LeBron, Paul George, and then Ingram, Lonzo Ball, and is that team's not going to beat Golden State, is it? Gabriel Hernandez says, ahoy hoy. Is T.O. the GOAT? No. Next question. If it's just Paul George, that's like Paul George and LeBron with that team, that's not good enough to beat Golden State. Now maybe, is this it?
Can you talk about the level of stress that you
Is this the right
feel
question,
throughout the
people?
course of a game knowing that? And does it wear on you mentally in a way that it wouldn't with other opponents?
Well, I can take it back kind of the battles that I had with the Spurs when I was in Miami.
No, probably not. Okay.
You just knew that they wouldn't beat themselves. You just knew that, like, every possession when we was playing, San Antonio, when I was in Miami, you just knew that if you made a mistake, Manu, Tim, Tony, Pop will make you pay. And at times they did make us pay, and then you sprinkle in what Gary Neal did to us one game, what Danny Green did to us one game, then Kawhi. You could never relax, and when you have great basketball players, but also that can also think the game and be very cerebral about the game, that's what adds the level of stress, because you know that you can never, ever relax. And you should never want to relax. It's the finals, it's the playoffs. Even if it's a regular season game, you should always want to be on your toes. That's what part of competition is all about. So it adds to the level of stress. So when you have, Timmy D and Manu and Kawhi and Manu, and now you have Draymond and Clay, Steph, and KD, and then you sprinkle in Iguodala and Livingston and all those guys as well, it adds a level of stress because you know that you can never relax, you know, and if you relax, they make you pay, and making you pay could cost you a game, you know. So it's tough, but you know, it's all part of the competition, which I love, and which I continue to lace them up every night. So, but hopefully, I got your answer for you.
Thanks.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, LeBron.
We did it! We found it! Yay! Go team! Thanks for your help, everybody. Oh, this is highly produced show. All right, so there you have it. LeBron James at the podium was asked about the psychological aspect of playing against a team like Golden State, and then evokes Pop and the Spurs. And then I forgot to bring the other side of this too, which is important to note. Did y'all notice DeJounte Murray? DeJounte Murray, the Spurs starting point guard, who we know is friends with LeBron James, was placed behind the Cavs bench in last night's game. And I know that somebody who watches the show regularly, I can't remember who specifically, shared the video or shared the picture of it with me. So you have like Spurs fans foaming at the mouth because DeJounte Murray was shown behind the Cavs bench last night. And then you have LeBron at the podium evoking the greatness of Pop and the Spurs. So, you know, it was like there was a point in time where I thought it seemed like there was a potential for... I'm trying to see if I can find the picture here, folks. Yeah, here we go. Boom. So a couple of things, huh? Let's go. All right, let's go to the tape. Here we go. All right, so thank you to the Spurs family on Twitter for tweeting out the Snapchat of here he is, DeJounte in Cleveland, Ohio, working out. Boom. And then DeJounte Murray likes the comment of clean pick, DeJounte. I see you in Cleveland. Recruit LeBron James to the Spurs. Hashtag LeBron to SA. DeJounte liked it. Boom. And then Michael DeLeon does great work. There he is. Can you see him? Boom. On the bench. There's DeJounte. You can't really see it, but there you go. Wow. So you have DeJounte Murray at the game behind the bench. He's liking posts that are suggesting that he's in Cleveland to recruit LeBron. Things are happening. Frank Ramirez says, if Kawhi stays, LeBron James comes to San Antonio. It's hard to disagree with you, buddy. It's hard to disagree with you. And, you know, as a conscientious, or as sort of a person without a rooting interest in this whole situation, like, you know, I'm basically a Bulls fan at this point, even though I'm kind of apathetic towards the Bulls as it is, because they're so poorly run and they've been so bad for so long. Of all the places where it could end up, for me, the Spurs would be the best. You know, Carly Penner, you're supposed to be working. And Carly, by the way, would you be willing to offer Penners to LeBron James as part of his package to coming to San Antonio? Penners Menswear, downtown San Antonio. Would you be willing to offer Penners in exchange for LeBron coming to San Antonio? He basically gets to own the store and reap some of the profits from it. But the good news is LeBron's coming to San Antonio. Everybody wins. Except for Mitchell. And you, probably. Anyways, I'm just willing... I want you to either say yes or no to that offer. I'm making the offer. I'm offering LeBron Penners Menswear in downtown San Antonio. Let's see. What else are people commenting? Brent Holmes in the house. What up, Brent Holmes? How are you, buddy? Long time no talk. What else should we talk about? Do we want to just keep talking about this and just talk in circles about LeBron coming to San Antonio? Or should we, Gervin Williams says it would be best to trade for LeBron to keep his bird rights. Powell and a first round should do it if Bron tells Cleveland he's going to San Antonio anyway. God, wouldn't that be amazing? Pau Gasol's horrible contract. Brent Holmes says, what's up, my man? LeBron coming to the Tone. I'm in Cleveland right now. I'm going to ask him. Go ask him. Ask. What you should do is find DeJounte Murray and ask him. Ask Murray, because LeBron's not going to tell you, but DeJounte Murray might ask you. Henry Munoz says, I've been on the fence, but I think Kawhi signs the max deal and stays with the Spurs. AD Singh says, I'll throw in my liquor stores too. Boom! Now we've got Penners Menswear and liquor stores. And we know, and here's the thing too, AD, you can keep the liquor stores. LeBron's a wine guy. He's a wine guy. So you're going to have to throw in the liquor stores. Pop's got all the wine he could ever want. Pop could drown LeBron in wine. So you can keep the liquor stores. I'm only offering up Penner's menswear. Frank Ramirez says he made a statement that he wants to play alongside with Kawhi. I mean, yeah, why wouldn't he? When Kawhi's healthy and playing, he's one of the 3 or 4 best players in the league. I heard a rumor out there that KD could potentially join LeBron in LA, which sounds great for the league, but it's great for the league. But who would you root for? Because everybody hates the Lakers. Are a team like the Cowboys. You either hate them or you love them. You're not indifferent towards them. But people already hate Golden State because they win so much. By the way, this is a good question to ask Spurs fans, and we don't have to talk about T.O. Is Golden State, is this a dynasty? And I know somebody asked me, I think it was Gonzo, asked me if they win on Friday. Yes. Yeah, I mean, I called it a sweep from the start, so I'm going to stick with it. Rock and Hammer wine tastes like adult Kool-Aid. Yeah, but that's not... That's his wine. Keep it in mind, Pop has a ridiculous cellar of wine, I would imagine. I've never been there, but I mean, I'm not suggesting that Pop has in his basement, and I know you don't have basements in San Antonio, but Pop probably does. He doesn't have only Rock and Hammer wine. But how do you classify? So they sweep. I called it a sweep. I'm going to stick with it. They sweep this thing on Friday. They win 3 or 4 championships. Are they a dynasty? Plainly put. If they, if Golden State, Golden State's gonna win the series anyway, so what's the difference? But Golden State wins the series. They won 3 of 4. Is that a dynasty? How do you classify that? And it's interesting to ask majority Spurs fans. Yeah, no question they're a dynasty, says John Dyer. But I don't know. Doesn't it KD's legacy? And I'm not a big legacy guy, but people are talking legacy, so let's talk legacy. KD's legacy in a broad scope for most people is pretty watered down, right? Yeah, he's going to have won his 2nd championship back-to-back. But I think people will always look at it and be like, yeah, but, he joined a 73-win team. He backdoored his way into a championship. Frank, this is your last comment? Why? You don't have to make your last comment. You can keep commenting. So, if people will classify Kevin Durant's legacy as backdoored his way into a title, won't people do the same thing as with Golden State as a whole? Won't that kind of be their legacy too? Where it's yeah, but, it was a legacy. They won 3 of 4, but, it was just a bunch of great players that came together. Joseph Aronovich in the house, my father-in-law. What's going on? How are you? Have the Capitals finished off that series yet? I'm happy Vegas is not going to win in their first season. You got to suffer a little bit as a fan first before you can win championships. So I think based on winning 3 championships in 4 years, that's considered a dynasty in most eras. But yeah, I think right. And John Dyer says, yeah, their legacy will be a yeah, but. So I think that sort of diminishes their legacy to a certain degree. Just my take, my opinion on it. And I think depending on the decision LeBron makes this offseason, LeBron has to put himself in position where he can beat Golden State. And if he goes basically anywhere but LA, I think most people will be rooting for him. Maybe they will too if he goes to Laker. Lord Stanley is up tonight. Nice. That's good to know. Hopefully the Capitals finish it off. LeBron joins the Spurs, and it's just a continuation of an already great thing. Well, except for KD, they drafted all the other All-Stars. That's true. That's true. They did. So maybe that means more. By the way, if there's another competitor for LeBron too, and it's so yesterday I went off on Philadelphia for their indecision about Brian Colangelo. Like, what's the decision to be made is basically what I argued. And then after the fact, he was coming back. They made the announcement that they weren't going to fire him. And then today, my buddy Shams Charania, NBA insider, says in statement following resignation as 76ers president Brian Colangelo says, quote, I vigorously dispute the allegation that my conduct was in any way reckless. At no point did I ever purposefully or directly share any sensitive, non-public, club-related information with her. What a douche. He's still blaming his wife. Let's just say it was his wife. Let's just say in a hypothetical world, it was his wife that created all these fake Twitter accounts and started tweeting things from them about players on his team. Let's just say that's true. I don't buy it. I don't buy it at all, but let's just say that's true. Don't you still bite the... Like, you just look so petty and horrible to allow your wife to take the blame for this. Even if it was her and it wasn't, just take the responsibility. What a chicken shit thing to do, Brian Colangelo. I mean, I had very little respect for you going into this, but, I mean, my goodness. What a chicken shit thing to do. Hang your wife out to dry and make her the person to blame here? Ugh. Awful. Terrible. Chicken bleep. Sorry. Anyways, I think now that, 76ers are back in the conversation. Although I think if you look at, all right, where could he go to win a champ? Like, where's his best shot to win a championship? Well, there are a lot of variables in that. So, with Houston, they have obviously to shed salary and make it work. They'd have to get rid of Ryan Anderson's $20 million contract. I thought the Pau Gasol contract was bad. At least they're only paying Pau Gasol $16 million. They're paying Ryan Anderson $20 million. That guy didn't even play in the playoffs for them. But when, Golden State came together, they knew they were going to have to unload contracts, and it was like, well, who's going to be willing to take on some of those contracts? And they'll find buyers. I mean, they give up. You give up draft picks. You find people that want them, are willing to do it. So I think with Houston, the notion of, well, how are they going to make it work mathematically? I think they'll be able to make it work mathematically. The question is, will Kawhi stay in San Antonio? Because then that, to me, vaults the Spurs up to number one on where he should go for his best chance to win a championship. Houston's two. But then, of course, it depends on what are the Lakers getting? There are rumors that Kevin Durant's going to the Lakers. Which, by the way, if he goes to the Lakers with LeBron, I guess that's a little bit different than going to Golden State, but it's not much different. Kind of seems like the same thing. Yeah, but Gervin, 2 moves. So did the Rockets have to dump 2 players too. Gervin, the Spurs would have to dump Patty and Powell. The Rockets would have to dump Ryan Anderson and Capella. Even though I think they try to make it work with Capella. Zach Rosenberg says, "How come no one's mentioning the Knicks as a landing spot for LeBron? We've got Phil Jackson's ghost and Porzingis, who's good for at least 50% of the games each year." The Knicks, of course. Where LeBron could go and join forces with a worse situation than he's currently with. Sounds like a perfect situation for him. Here's the other question about LeBron coming to the Spurs. Would the Spurs be willing to exceed the luxury tax? I don't think LeBron goes somewhere where a franchise is unwilling to exceed the luxury tax. Just my personal belief there. I think he only will go somewhere with an organization that's willing to spend beyond the luxury tax threshold. And that's not just a luxury tax thing. I think that's because I think LeBron feels like having his salary capped limits the amount of money he should be making. LeBron is underpaid. I know he makes a ton of money. I know. Save me. Save those comments. I know he makes ridiculous, but he's still underpaid relative to the amount of revenue he brings into the NBA individually. No player is responsible for that much revenue as LeBron James is. Jalen Rose said yesterday that KD would win this title and another and then go to the Knicks. Yikes. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining us right here on Phantom. It's showtime every day at noon. Make sure to join us. By the way, I'll be doing another stream tonight on YouTube with my buddy 5 Points Vids. Check us out there. 5 Points Vids, very talented a huge following on YouTube, so check us out. We're going to be broadcasting on Phantom's YouTube page, so check it out there. Stay tuned for reminders of it on my Twitter page. Follow me on Twitter at RESports, A-R-I Sports, and I'll be tweeting about it. But again, I'll be streaming later tonight about 9 o'clock Central with 5 Points Fades, another show. I'm sure we'll talk about this and many other things, so join us tonight. But TJ Carpenter, noon o'clock with TJ Carpenter right here on Phantom is coming up next. Stay tuned for the very talented and wonderful TJ Carpenter coming up next right here on Phantom, Facebook's Sports Network.